I could almost feel it. It was really cold because they hadn't kept heating it over the weekend. And we sat in the bleachers and we waited until they tuned in on President Roosevelt, who gave his speech that all of us have heard many times, the day of infamy.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
Well, I was laying on the living room floor, listening to a Packer game on the radio, and I was very upset that they interrupted the game for some announcement. At 16 years old, I wasn't fully cognizant of what was going on.
It was Sunday afternoon, and I was about 3 blocks from home, and I was over playing with a friend. I was 10 years old. Her dad was a mailman, and he usually was very jovial, and he'd come in and, fool with us and everything. And that afternoon, he came in, and he was so sober. And I remember he said we had been bombed, and people had been killed. And I got so scared. I thought they were going to come to Story Street right then, where I was. And I jumped on my bike, I remember, and I rode the 3 blocks home.
I had convinced my dad on that Sunday to take 2 friends of mine to the movies. And then he came and picked us up afterwards. And he was standing there as we got out of the movies, and he said, "Oh, something terrible has happened." And I thought, "Oh, my mother." And he said, "No, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor."
After we got to see the bombings and the sinking, that was when we were beginning to realize what was going on over there.
To see the planes and the strafing and the bombing, it was terrible. But it was, excuse me, I just got choked up on that. I just couldn't believe it. And even at 14, things just, everything seemed to change. Our life as a kid, you weren't a boy anymore. It seemed all to end.
In high school, they started to orientate a lot of things, like the swim class was orientated to learn how to swim underwater for a great distance. And that was a very good training for when I got into the military. I ended up in the Air Force.
I was put in the first 18 and 19-year-old draft. A train came through coming from the north down through Neenah, stopping at every station, and about a half or so of the high school kids were getting on the train because we were all being drafted. Got tested and got put in aviation cadets, and then that's when I went into learning to fly. This would be the favorite one. That's a B-26.
Well, we went into rationing, gasoline rationing, shoes, anything made with rubber was rationed. I remember when we had our school prom. It was not a school prom. It was the victory dance, and the admission was something like a piece of metal, something that could be recycled and help the war effort.
We'd have these paper drives and collecting empty cans, and everybody was enthusiastic about it. They did what they felt they could, and were glad they could do something.
I toured Pearl Harbor itself. I saw the like a two-man submarine that Japan had, and those two guys literally sat on a torpedo, and they were kamikaze. There's a lot of people down there yet. Oh, damn it.
When you walk through the boat, you realized how they could be also trapped because it was so enclosed and so confined. And a lot of them died of smoke inhalation. It left you with a feeling almost like helplessness, which is what they were. They were helpless.
Being able to watch it on TV was the big difference between 9/11 and December 7th, 1941.
You're seeing it unfold. And that, I guess, was a feeling of awe.
You could feel the motion because all these people were running.
And that morning we got on a United flight for Arizona, and we had just taken off not long at all, and the pilot came on and said, "We're going to be returning to Milwaukee." He said, "There's been a problem in New York." We saw the television and saw what was going on. We also had a son living in New York City at the time, something that you'll never forget. I believe as I was growing up that patriotism meant that you were proud of your country and proud of the things that you were doing.
Means standing up for your country.
Respect for our country and our flags.
What makes our country great, we have opportunity.
If the war broke out again, I'd try and go. I know darn well they say, get out of here.
I wish that we as a country could come together the way they did in those days. That I'd like to see again.